War Council chamber of the Zenthari flagship hummed with tension. Fleet Commander Torvik slammed 3 of his 4 manipulator appendages against the tactical display, his bioluminescent crest flaring bright orange with frustration. "This is absurd," he bellowed, his vocal sacs vibrating. "We have conquered 47 star systems. We have brought entire civilizations to their knees, and now you stand before me, telling me that a single juvenile human and her pet have decimated 3 of our elite strike teams." Captain Yilnex shifted uncomfortably, his armor plates clicking. "Commander, the reports are accurate. The creature is unlike anything in our combat databases. It appears to be a small, ground-dwelling mammal from Earth. The humans call it a honey badger." "A honey badger," Torvik repeated slowly, tasting the alien words like bitter toxin. "And this honey badger is somehow responsible for 43 casualties, the destruction of 2 armored assault vehicles, and the complete psychological breakdown of our reconnaissance squad." "Yes, Commander." Torvik's third eye twitched. In his 300 cycles of military service, he had faced plasma storms, navigated asteroid fields at combat speed, and stared down the barrel of extinction-class weapons. Nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for this moment. "Show me the footage again," he commanded, though every fiber of his being wanted to deny what he was about to witness. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the human settlement on Colony World 714. The images were captured from the helmet camera of squad leader Fenth. May his essence find peace among the stars. The timestamp read 48 hours prior. The scene opened on what appeared to be a simple agricultural outpost. Modest structures, fields of grain swaying in the wind, mountains in the background, standard human expansion protocols, nothing threatening. Then the camera focused on the target, a human child, no more than 10 solar cycles old based on her size. Dark hair pulled back in a single braid, dirt-stained clothes, bare feet. She stood in the middle of a dusty path, arms crossed, next to a black and white creature roughly the size of a Zenthari combat drone, but with considerably more attitude. "Attention, human juvenile," Fenth's voice crackled through the recording. "By order of the Zenthari hegemony, you are to surrender this settlement immediately. Resistance will be met with appropriate force." The child tilted her head, studying the 12 armored soldiers surrounding her position with what could only be described as amusement. Then she smiled, a slow, deliberate expression that made Torvik's primary heart skip a beat, even through the recording. "You want the settlement?" the child called out, her voice clear and steady. "Well, you gotta go through me and Rascal first." Rascal, apparently the name of the creature beside her, made a sound. If Torvik had to describe it, he would say, it was like someone gargling gravel mixed with pure distilled rage and a complete absence of survival instinct. "This is your final warning, human," Fenth declared, raising his plasma rifle. The child's smile widened. "Try." That single word, delivered with such casual confidence, should have been meaningless. A juvenile human against an elite Zenthari strike squad? The outcome should have been predetermined. Should have been. What happened next violated at least 17 laws of physics and possibly several theological principles. The honey badger moved first, not quickly by Zenthari standards, but with purpose. It charged directly at Fenth, ignoring the plasma bolt that singed its fur, and latched onto the squad leader's leg with jaws that appeared to have been forged in the deepest pits of some forgotten hell dimension. "It's biting through my armor," Fenth screamed. "Impossible. This armor can withstand direct hits from... Oh, stars, it's climbing! It's climbing!" The camera view went chaotic. Torvik watched as his trained soldiers, veterans of countless campaigns, scattered like first-year cadets facing their first combat simulation. The honey badger, this compact ball of absolute mayhem, moved through their ranks like a natural disaster with teeth. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the child. While Rascal created havoc, drawing fire and attention, The human juvenile moved with calculated precision. She was not running around wildly or screaming in panic as any sensible youngster would when surrounded by armed soldiers. No, this child was picking up rocks, pieces of pipe, anything she could find, and throwing them with disturbing accuracy. "Targeting scanners offline," one soldier yelled. "My visor's cracked." "Where did she learn to throw like that?" "Requesting immediate extraction." Then the child did something that made Torvik's command staff gasp in collective horror. She vaulted onto the back of a panicking soldier, used him as a springboard to reach an abandoned plasma rifle, caught it mid-flip, and without any hesitation whatsoever, fired it directly into the engine core of the nearest assault vehicle. The resulting explosion sent 3 soldiers flying. The honey badger, covered in what appeared to be equipment fragments and looking absolutely delighted about it, sat down and began grooming its paws as if nothing unusual had occurred. "Fall back," Fenth ordered, his voice cracking. "Fall back." The recording ended there, as Fenth removed his helmet camera before the full retreat. The after-action reports filled in the rest of the embarrassing details. Torvik closed his eyes, feeling a migraine forming behind his third eye. "Tell me about the subsequent encounters." Yilnex pulled up another series of reports. Second squad attempted a night operation. The honey badger detected them from 300 meters away, alerted the child, and they set up what our analysts can only describe as improvised booby traps, tripwires made from farming equipment, explosive charges fashioned from fertilizer, and strategically positioned livestock. Livestock? The human settlement raises large herbivores called cattle, Commander. Apparently, when startled, they stampede. The child somehow managed to aim them directly at our advancing forces. Torvik felt his dignity dying a slow, painful death. And the third squad? They never even reached the settlement. The honey badger intercepted them at the river crossing, alone. It took out 6 soldiers before they could establish defensive positions, then disappeared into the underbrush. For the next 8 hours, it conducted what our psychological division has classified as asymmetric terror warfare. Random attacks from different directions, never staying in one place, always targeting the weakest member of the formation. "A single animal," Torvik said flatly, "conducted terror warfare. The men are calling it the shadow that bites, sir." "Of course they are." Torvik activated his personal communicator. "Get me high command. This situation requires escalation." Admiral Thren's holographic form materialized, his expression already showing concern. Admirals did not like being contacted unless the news was either very good or catastrophically bad. Torvik's reputation suggested this was not a promotion recommendation. "Fleet Commander Torvik, your report?" "Admiral, the situation on Colony World 714 has become complicated. The human settlement refuses to evacuate, and our attempts at enforcement have encountered unexpected resistance." "Unexpected resistance? You have 3 full battalions at your disposal, Torvik. Are the humans fielding military assets we were not aware of?" "Not exactly, Admiral. The resistance consists of 1 juvenile human and her companion animal." The silence that followed lasted exactly 12 seconds. Torvik counted. "Repeat that, Fleet Commander." "1 child, Admiral, approximately 10 solar cycles old, and a creature called a honey badger. They have, to date, repelled all attempts to secure the settlement and inflicted significant casualties on our forces." Admiral Thren's crest turned a deep purple, indicating he was cycling through several powerful emotions simultaneously. "Fleet Commander, are you reporting that the might of the Zenthari hegemony is being held at bay by a single juvenile?" "And a honey badger, sir. The honey badger is a critical factor." "I did not ask about the honey badger, Torvik." "Respectfully, Admiral, you should. Our xenobiology team has been analyzing the creature. It appears to be from Earth's African continent, and according to human databases we have accessed, it is widely regarded as one of the most fearless and aggressive animals on the planet, despite its relatively small size. How aggressive can it possibly be?" Torvik gestured to Yilnex, who pulled up a compilation of footage. Honey badgers attacking lions. Honey badgers raiding beehives while being stung thousands of times and not caring. Honey badgers breaking into fortified human structures. Honey badgers fighting off entire packs of predators twice their size. One particularly disturbing clip showed a honey badger being bitten by a venomous snake, becoming temporarily paralyzed, then waking up 2 hours later and eating the snake. They have been documented killing prey 10 times their size, Yilnex explained. They possess powerful jaws, sharp claws, thick skin that provides natural armor, and what human researchers describe as a complete absence of fear or survival instinct. Combined with high intelligence and problem-solving abilities, they are, essentially, compact siege engines of pure aggression. Admiral Thren watched the footage in silence. Finally, he spoke. And the child? Her name is Mara Collins. She lives alone with her parents in the settlement. Local records indicate she has been raised in this frontier environment her entire life. Skilled in survival techniques, familiar with the local terrain, and according to intercepted communications, she has been training with Rascal. That is the honey badger's name, since he was a juvenile. Training? They appear to have developed a cooperative tactical system, Admiral. The creature creates chaos and draws attention while the child exploits openings and weaknesses. It is crude by military standards, but devastatingly effective against our current approach. Admiral Thren's hologram flickered as he processed this information. What do the child's parents say about this situation? They are remarkably calm, sir. The father, when contacted, said, and I quote, "Yeah, Mara can handle herself, raised her right." The mother added that we should leave before someone gets seriously hurt. Someone, Thren repeated. They have decimated 3 squads. I believe, Admiral, that the mother was expressing concern for our forces, not her daughter. The Admiral's crest went through several colors that Torvik had never seen before. This is unacceptable. We cannot allow a single human child to stand against the hegemony. It sets a dangerous precedent. Other colonies might get ideas. Agreed, Admiral, which is why I am requesting authorization to deploy specialized assets. What do you recommend? Torvik pulled up a tactical display. I propose we eliminate the honey badger first. Without her companion, the child will be vulnerable. We deploy our apex predator squad, hunters trained on the most dangerous worlds we have encountered. Once the animal is neutralized, the child will surrender peacefully. Admiral Thren considered this. Very well. Authorization granted. Eliminate the honey badger, secure the child without harm, and end this embarrassment. I want this situation resolved within 24 hours, Fleet Commander. Understood, Admiral. It will be done. The hologram faded. Torvik turned to his assembled officers, his crest finally settling into a determined red. Prepare the hunter squad. Full combat authorization. Track and eliminate the target designated Rascal. And for the star's sake, do not underestimate it again. Captain Yilnex saluted. Yes, Commander, though, if I may ask, what about the child? The child is smart enough to know when she has lost. Without her animal companion, she will see reason. This ends today. 3 hours later, under the light of Colony World 714's twin moons, the hunter squad deployed. 6 of the Zenthari military's finest trackers, each equipped with advanced sensors, camouflage technology, and weapons designed to take down megafauna. Their target? 1 honey badger. Squad leader Vex moved through the darkness with practiced ease, his thermal sensors sweeping the terrain. The human settlement lay quiet ahead, lights dim in the residential structures. Intelligence suggested the honey badger typically ranged within a 2-kilometer radius of the child's home, hunting nocturnal prey and, presumably, planning acts of violence against visiting Zenthari forces. Spread formation, Vex commanded quietly. Sensor net active. Target is classified as extreme threat despite size. Maintain maximum safe distance until we have a clear kill shot. His squad acknowledged and dispersed into the shadows. These were professionals, trained on worlds where the wildlife considered armored soldiers a light snack. They had hunted things with acid blood, creatures that could phase through solid matter, and once, memorably, a predator that could manipulate gravity fields. How dangerous could one small Earth mammal actually be? Vex's motion sensor pinged. Movement, 30 meters ahead, low to the ground. Fast. Contact, moving to intercept. He raised his rifle, activating the scope's enhanced targeting system. The crosshairs tracked the movement through the tall grass, compensating for speed and trajectory. His finger tightened on the trigger. Then the movement stopped. Vex froze. In his experience, prey that suddenly stopped moving was either already dead or about to do something very unfortunate to the hunter. A sound emerged from the grass. That same horrible gargling gravel rage noise from the recordings, but somehow worse in person. It carried across the quiet night like a promise of violence. Target located and wait, negative on target. It is approaching our position. Repeat, target is advancing toward us. This was wrong. Prey did not advance toward armed hunters. Prey ran, hid, tried to look bigger than they were. They did not charge directly at superior forces while making sounds that suggested they were personally offended by the continued existence of anyone who was not them. The honey badger burst from the grass like a furry missile. Vex fired, his plasma bolt illuminating the night. It hit the creature square in the chest. The honey badger's stride did not even falter. It hit Vex at full speed, climbing his armor with claws that found every single weak point in the joints. Vex screamed, trying to shake the creature loose, but it moved like water, always finding purchase, always climbing higher. "Get it off! Get it off!" His squad opened fire, but the honey badger was too close, using Vex's own body as cover. Then it reached his helmet seals and began prying them apart with what seemed like intimate knowledge of Zenthari armor weaknesses. "How does it know where the seals are?" someone yelled. From the darkness, a young voice called out, calm and slightly amused. "I showed him your armor schematics from the soldiers you left behind. Rascal's a quick learner." Mara Collins stepped into the moonlight, holding what appeared to be a datapad in one hand and a length of pipe in the other. She looked utterly unconcerned by the 6 armed soldiers now turning their attention toward her. "Tactical withdrawal," the acting squad leader ordered, because Vex was currently too busy dealing with a honey badger disassembling his helmet to issue commands. "Good idea," Mara agreed cheerfully. "Rascal's been cranky since you guys interrupted his dinner. When he's cranky, he gets creative." The honey badger finally pulled Vex's helmet free and sat on the gasping soldier's chest, making eye contact with each remaining squad member in turn. The message was clear. "I did this. Any of you could be next. Choose wisely." They chose withdrawal. Mara walked over to where Rascal sat atop his defeated opponent, triumphant and radiating smug satisfaction. She scratched behind his ears. "Good boy, Rascal. Very good boy. Now let the nice alien soldier go so he can tell his boss something important." The honey badger reluctantly climbed down. Vex scrambled backward, his dignity in tatters along with several pieces of his armor. Mara knelt down, meeting Vex's eyes with an intensity that seemed far too old for her young face. "Tell your commander something for me. Tell him that every time he sends people to hurt Rascal or take our home, we'll be ready. Tell him that we're not going anywhere. And tell him—" She smiled, that same disturbing smile from the earlier recordings. "Tell him that if he really wants to end this, he should come talk to my parents, like a civilized being." Vex nodded frantically, wanting nothing more than to be anywhere else in the galaxy. "Oh, and one more thing," Mara added. "Rascal says your armor tastes funny. Might want to look into that." The honey badger growled in agreement. As the hunter squad retreated back to their dropship, Vex found himself thinking that perhaps, just perhaps, the Zenthari hegemony had finally encountered something they could not conquer through force. A 10-year-old girl and her honey badger. Somewhere in the settlement, Mara's father watched the retreating soldiers through night vision binoculars and chuckled. "That's my girl." Her mother sipped tea calmly. Think they'll finally ask to negotiate? Eventually. Might take a few more squads learning about Rascal's particular brand of hospitality first. Back on the flagship, Fleet Commander Torvik received Vex's report with all the enthusiasm of someone discovering their ship's recycling system had catastrophically failed. This was going to require a different approach. Fleet Commander Torvik sat in his private quarters, staring at a beverage he could no longer taste. Stress had dulled his sensory organs. Before him, projected in holographic detail, was every piece of intelligence his analysts had compiled on humans, honey badgers, and the specific nightmare combination currently residing on Colony World 714. The data was not encouraging. His door chimed. "Enter," he called, not bothering to look up. Captain Yilnek stepped inside, followed by someone Torvik had not expected, diplomatic envoy Shalara, her silver robes marking her as one of the few Zenthari trained in actual conversation rather than conquest. "Commander?" Shalara began, her tone already suggesting she disagreed with everything he had done so far. "I have reviewed your tactical reports. I have also reviewed our xenocultural database on humans. May I speak freely? Given that this situation cannot possibly get worse, yes. You have been approaching this entirely wrong." Torvik's crest flared. "We have followed standard occupation protocols, overwhelming force, clear demands, escalating pressure. Against an adult human military installation, perhaps, but this is a child, Commander. A child protecting her home and her companion. You have triggered what human psychological profiles call protective instincts, combined with what they term stubbornness." Shalara pulled up her own data. "Humans, particularly their young, respond poorly to threats against things they love. You told them to surrender their settlement. Fine, but then you threatened to eliminate her animal companion. The creature is a tactical asset. Standard procedure is to neutralize such advantages. Standard procedure assumes rational military opponents who understand cost-benefit analysis. Children do not calculate odds, Commander. They calculate loyalty. You threatened her friend. In human terms, you made this personal." Yilnex nodded agreement. "The envoy has a point, sir. Every action we have taken has reinforced the child's determination to resist. We have turned a simple evacuation into a vendetta." Torvik felt his migraine intensifying. "So what do you suggest, envoy? We simply abandon our claim to the territory, because one juvenile will not comply? I suggest, Commander, that you stop sending soldiers and start sending someone who can actually communicate." Shalara straightened her robes. "I volunteer to make contact with the child and her parents. Actual contact. Diplomatic discussion. You know, the thing my entire profession is designed for. The hegemony does not negotiate with children. Then the hegemony is going to keep losing soldiers to a honey badger, and word will spread. How long before other colonies realize they can resist? How long before the Council demands explanations for why an entire fleet cannot secure one agricultural settlement?" Shalara leaned forward. "Your pride is costing lives, Commander. Let me do my job." The silence stretched. Finally, Torvik gestured his reluctant agreement. "You have 24 hours, but I want a full security detail." No security detail. That child has been threatened by armed soldiers repeatedly. I go alone, unarmed, during daylight hours. I request permission to approach, like a civilized being, and I talk to her parents like the rational adults they presumably are. This is against every protocol. Your protocols have failed spectacularly, Commander. Try something different." Torvik wanted to argue, but the mounting casualty reports and Admiral Thren's increasingly furious communications suggested Shalara might have a point. "Very well, but you wear a comlink. Any sign of danger, I'm extracting you immediately." "Acceptable." The next morning, Shalara stood at the edge of the Collins family property, alone and visibly unarmed. She had chosen her simplest robes, removed all indicators of rank or authority, and practiced what humans called a non-threatening posture. From the porch of the modest farmhouse, 3 figures watched her. 2 adults and 1 child. Between them sat the honey badger, alert and radiating suspicion. Shalara raised her hands, palms forward. "My name is Shalara. I am a diplomatic envoy. I request permission to approach and speak with you. I am not armed. I am not here to threaten anyone. I simply wish to talk." The human male, broad-shouldered with sun-weathered skin, exchanged glances with the female beside him. She had the same dark hair as the child, and eyes that seemed to evaluate Shalara's every movement. "Thomas Collins," the man called out. "This is my wife, Elena, and our daughter, Mara. You can approach, but slowly. Rascal's had a busy week dealing with your friends, and he's not in a trusting mood." Shalara walked forward carefully, noting how the honey badger tracked her every step. The creature was smaller than she expected, but something in its eyes suggested it contained more fight per kilogram than anything she had previously encountered. "Thank you for allowing me to approach. I apologize for the actions of our military forces. They have handled this situation poorly." Elena Collins raised an eyebrow. "That's one way to put it. They've been trying to kill our daughter's best friend and force us off land we legally settled 5 years ago. I understand your anger. It is justified." Shalara stopped at what she hoped was a respectful distance. "May I sit?" Thomas gestured to a chair on the porch. Shalara sat, acutely aware that she was now within easy striking distance of all of them, including the honey badger who was eyeing her with the expression of someone deciding whether she was worth the effort of biting. "Why are you here?" Mara asked directly, her voice carrying none of the uncertainty Shalara expected from someone her age. "Your commander wants our settlement. We're not leaving. Seems pretty simple." "It should be simple," Shalara agreed. "But my people are not accustomed to being told no. We have expanded across many systems, and most species either join us willingly or surrender to superior force. You have done neither." "Maybe you should try a third option," Elena suggested, "respecting our property rights and leaving us alone. That is actually why I am here, to explore possibilities neither my commander nor, if I may be honest, you have considered." Shalara pulled out a datapad. "This settlement sits on land rich in rare minerals valuable to our industrial processes. That is why the hegemony wants it. However, I have done research. Human law, which your government insists we respect per the Treaty of Epsilon Station, states that settled colonies have rights to their land unless compensation is provided or imminent danger exists." Thomas leaned forward. "We know our rights. That's why we're still here." "Indeed, but here's what I propose. What if, instead of taking your land, we purchased mining rights? You retain ownership of the surface, your home, your settlement. We access the minerals below through carefully placed extraction points that do not interfere with your daily life. You receive substantial compensation, and more importantly, you remain here with your family and your Rascal, intact." Mara's eyes narrowed. "How substantial?" "Enough that you could expand your settlement, upgrade your equipment, and probably ensure your daughter's education through the finest institutions in human space, should she choose that path." Shalara displayed figures on her datapad. Elena and Thomas exchanged long looks, the kind of silent communication that came from years of partnership. "And what happens when your miners want more access?" Thomas asked. "When they decide surface operations are more efficient?" "Legal contracts, enforceable under both human and Zenthari law. Violations would result in immediate cessation of operations and additional compensation. I have already drafted preliminary agreements." Shalara handed over the datapad. "I am not asking you to trust my commander's goodwill. I am asking you to trust in legal frameworks and mutual benefit." Rascal made a sound, less aggressive than before, but still skeptical. Mara reached down and scratched his head. "What do you think, buddy?" The honey badger looked at Shalara, then at Mara, then back at Shalara. He appeared to be considering whether this alien might be acceptable if she stayed away from his territory and did not threaten his family. "He says you seem okay for an alien," Mara translated. "But he's keeping his eye on you." Shalara had no idea if the child could actually communicate with the creature or if this was childhood imagination. But at this point, she was willing to believe anything. I understand completely. Rascal has every reason to be suspicious. You called him by his name, Mara noted. Of course, he is important to you, which makes him important to this negotiation. I have also researched honey badgers extensively over the past day. Remarkable animals, fearless, intelligent, and fiercely loyal. I can understand why you two are companions. Something shifted in Mara's expression. The guarded hostility eased slightly. Your soldiers called him a threat asset, a target. You called him remarkable. Your soldiers see everything as nails because they only carry hammers, Shalara said quietly. I see a child who loves her friend and a family defending their home. That requires a different approach. Thomas stood and walked to the edge of the porch, looking out over his fields. 5 years we've worked this land, built everything from nothing. We came out here because we wanted space, freedom, a place to raise our daughter without the crowding and noise of the core worlds. And we've been good neighbors to everyone, human or otherwise. I have read your settlement records, Shalara confirmed. You have aided passing travelers, shared resources during shortages, and maintained peaceful relations with 3 other species in this sector. Your reputation is excellent. Then why did your people come with guns instead of contracts? Elena's voice carried disappointment rather than anger. We're reasonable people. We would have listened to an offer. Shalara's crest lowered, a gesture of shame among her people. Because the Zenthari hegemony has forgotten how to ask instead of demand. We have become accustomed to power, and power makes you forget basic courtesy. For that, on behalf of my people, I apologize. The silence that followed felt different. Less hostile, more contemplative. Mom? Dad? Mara looked between her parents. Can we talk privately for a minute? The Collins family huddled together, speaking in low voices. Rascal sat beside them, occasionally glancing at Shalara as if making sure she stayed where she was supposed to. Finally, they returned. We'll consider your offer, Thomas said, but we want modifications to the contract. Environmental protections, strict limits on operational hours, and a clause that if Rascal or any other wildlife is harmed by your operations, the entire agreement is void. Shalara's relief was visible. Absolutely acceptable. I can have revised contracts by this evening. And one more thing, Mara added. Your commander has to apologize to Rascal. Excuse me? He ordered soldiers to eliminate him. Rascal deserves an apology. He was just defending his home. Shalara imagined Fleet Commander Torvik's face when she relayed this demand. It would be spectacular. I will convey this requirement. In person, Mara insisted. He comes here unarmed and apologizes properly. The commander does not typically? Then there's no deal. Mara crossed her arms, and Shalara recognized the expression. Immovable, object meeting, unstoppable force. The child had learned negotiation from her parents and stubbornness from her honey badger. I will make the request, Shalara agreed, knowing this would be the most difficult part of the entire negotiation. Back on the flagship, Torvik listened to Shalara's report with mixed emotions. Relief that violence was ending, frustration at the terms, and absolute horror at Mara's final demand. The child wants me to apologize to the animal. Yes, Commander, it is non-negotiable. I am a fleet commander of the Zenthari hegemony. I do not apologize to livestock. Rascal is not livestock, sir. He is a companion animal, legally recognized under human law as part of the family unit. And, more pragmatically, if you want this situation resolved without further casualties or the massive embarrassment of explaining to High Command why you could not secure one settlement, you will go down there and express regret for attempting to eliminate a creature that was simply protecting its family. Torvik stared at her. You have been spending too much time studying human psychology. Perhaps you should have spent more time doing the same, sir. It would have saved considerable resources. 2 hours later, Fleet Commander Torvik stood on the Collins family porch, feeling more uncomfortable than he had during actual combat operations. Before him sat the honey badger, watching him with dark eyes that seemed to contain vast and justified contempt. Mara stood beside Rascal, her parents flanking her. Shalara waited nearby, probably enjoying this far more than was professional. "Rascal," Torvik began, his voice stiff. "I apologize for ordering operations against you. You were defending your family and your home. That is honorable. My soldiers should not have threatened you." The honey badger stared at him for a long moment. Then it made a sound, less aggressive than before, more considering. "He says your apology is acceptable," Mara translated, "but you're still on probation. Any more soldiers coming after him, and all bets are off." "Understood," Torvik said, surprising himself by meaning it. Thomas extended his hand, a human gesture Torvik had researched. "Commander, we appreciate you coming here personally. Takes courage to admit mistakes." Torvik clasped the offered hand carefully, mindful of human fragility. "Your daughter taught me that force is not always the answer. An uncomfortable lesson, but necessary." "Mara's good at teaching uncomfortable lessons," Elena said with maternal pride. "Comes from having Rascal as a best friend. He doesn't believe in doing things the easy way." The honey badger made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been a threat. With Rascal, it was hard to tell. Over the following weeks, the situation transformed. Mining operations began with careful oversight from both the Collins family and independent human inspectors. The extraction points were placed precisely where Thomas and Elena approved, and operational hours were strictly limited. Mara became something of a liaison, checking on the mining crews and ensuring Rascal understood that these new aliens were permitted guests, not threats. The honey badger remained skeptical but ceased active hostilities. Torvik, surprisingly, found himself visiting the settlement regularly, partly to oversee operations, but increasingly because he found the Collins family fascinating. They represented something the Zenthari had lost, a balance between strength and compassion, between defending what mattered and remaining open to cooperation. One afternoon, he sat on the porch with Thomas, watching Mara play with Rascal in the fields. "Your daughter is remarkable," Torvik observed. "She is," Thomas agreed. "Tough as nails when she needs to be, kind as sunshine when she wants to be. We're proud of her. She defeated multiple military operations with just her wits and her companion. That should not have been possible." "You were thinking like a military commander," Thomas said. "Tactics, force multipliers, strategic advantages." Mara wasn't thinking about any of that. She was just thinking that nobody threatens her best friend and her home. Simple motivation, but powerful. "And the honey badger?" Thomas laughed. "Rascal's just being Rascal. Honey badgers don't back down, don't give up, and don't care about odds. Mix that attitude with a smart kid who loves him, and you get something your soldiers weren't prepared for." "An unstoppable force meeting an immovable object," Torvik mused. "Nah, Commander. Just a girl and her honey badger standing their ground." In orbit, Captain Yilnex reviewed the monthly reports with satisfaction. Mining operations were ahead of schedule. The contract was being honored by both parties, and most importantly, no additional casualties had been reported. Admiral Thren had been quietly pleased with the resolution, though he made it clear that future operations would begin with diplomatic outreach rather than military deployment. The Collins situation had become a case study in alternative approaches to expansion. Down on the surface, Shalara sat with Elena Collins, sharing tea and discussing cultural differences. "Your people really thought they could just take what they wanted?" Elena asked. "For too long, yes. We had forgotten that civilized beings negotiate. They do not simply conquer. Your family reminded us of that basic truth." Shalara sipped her tea. "This beverage is quite pleasant, by the way. Chamomile, good for stress." Elena smiled. "Though I imagine dealing with Torvik's stubbornness was stressful enough. He has grown more flexible. Your daughter had a profound effect on him. Mara has that way about her. Gets it from her father's determination and my negotiating skills, mixed with a healthy dose of growing up on a frontier world. Elena watched her daughter through the window. We worried about raising her out here, away from other children. But she's turned out better than we could have hoped. She has an excellent role model in Rascal. Elena laughed. Never thought I'd hear an alien diplomat praise a honey badger, but you're right. That little monster has taught her about loyalty, courage, and standing up for what matters. As the sun set over Colony World 714, Mara sat with Rascal on their favorite hill, overlooking the settlement and the carefully placed mining operations in the distance. We did good, buddy, she said, scratching behind his ears. Kept our home, made some new friends, and taught those Zenthari that humans don't back down when we're in the right. Rascal made a contented sound, his version of agreement. Think they'll remember this lesson? The honey badger looked at her with eyes that had seen off multiple military operations and emerged victorious. His expression suggested that if they forgot, he would be happy to provide a refresher course. Mara grinned. That's what I thought. Come on, Mom's making dinner, and Dad promised you some of that special meat he's been saving. They walked back toward the farmhouse together. A 10-year-old girl and her honey badger. Unlikely defenders who had stood against an empire and won. Not through violence, but through determination, love, and the simple refusal to surrender what mattered most. Behind them, the Zenthari mining operation hummed efficiently, a testament to what could be achieved when force gave way to respect and demand gave way to negotiation. Fleet Commander Torvik, reviewing reports in his quarters, added a personal note to his daily log. Today, I learned that the smallest opponents can teach the greatest lessons. The Collins family and their remarkable honey badger have shown the Zenthari hegemony that true strength lies not in the ability to conquer, but in the wisdom to know when to stop and listen. I am better for this lesson, as is my command. May we remember it when we encounter the next family defending their home. He paused, then added one final line. Also, honey badgers are terrifying, and I recommend avoiding them at all costs. That's all. Somewhere in the settlement, Rascal sneezed, as if commenting on the commander's assessment. Mara laughed, translating. He says you're welcome, Commander. Anytime you need another lesson, just let him know. And in the comfortable chaos of the Collins family home, with mining operations proceeding peacefully, diplomatic relations established, and a honey badger being spoiled with treats, peace reigned. The kind of peace that comes not from surrender, but from mutual respect. The kind of peace a determined child and her fearless companion had fought for and won.